So there's a civil war going on right now in Bitcoin. The year is 2025, and the debate is over Bitcoin Core versus Bitcoin Knots, and fundamentally this is about storing data, arbitrary data, inside the blockchain. This is something that I happen to know a great deal about because I've researched it and published on this very topic back in 2017 during the block wars. I know how to store data in the blockchain, and it's something that I believe is important to the blockchain, is to be able to store arbitrary data. I think of the blockchain, Bitcoin's blockchain, as the first real free speech platform. Everybody is so fixated on the tokens, the bitcoins, the satoshis. They fail to realize that the important thing is not the exchange of tokens. It's the fact that you can leave messages that can't be erased. You can leave permanent data that's always accessible. Messages to the world. It's truly free speech. And, I guess I have a radical view of the blockchain in this way. What is the argument between Knots and Core about? Fundamentally, it's about this thing called op return. And the Bitcoin Core wants to increase the op return size from like 80 bytes, which is what it is now, to 100 kilobytes. Now, 100 kilobyte op return technically doesn't violate protocol rules, and these can actually be mined. They're just not relayed around the network. So this threshold, this 80 byte threshold, essentially acts as what people refer to as a filter. So anybody that tries to store or tries to create a transaction that has a large op return, if they push that onto the network will just drop it, right? The network will just say, no, we're not relaying that, even though it's technically valid. It's technically a valid transaction to do, is the other argument. That's the core argument. Miners can still mine it if they wanted to. It doesn't violate consensus. It doesn't violate the rules of the protocol to create such a large op return. So why don't we just remove this limit and let the network relay large op return transactions? That's Core's argument. Both sides of this argument are crazy. Okay, both sides are they're just crazy. Both sides are just crazy. The Core side is crazy because there's no reason to stop having this filter. There's no reason to allow for these large op returns when nobody really needs that much data in an op return. I would be in favor of like increasing the limit or the filter to like 1 kilobyte or something. The problem is with the 100 kilobytes, as the Knots people point out. Okay, the Knots argument goes like this: look, you increase the op return limit to 100 kilobytes, then it's like elementary, very easy to then just start spamming the blockchain with large chunks of data, non-monetary transaction data. And the blocks are already limited by 1 megabyte, right? We already have small blocks. So if you let people start broadcasting these large op returns, it's going to fill up the block space with a bunch of junk. But worse than a bunch of junk, which they're also against just any kind of data. See, like the Knots people are crazy because they're against any kind of data being put into the blockchain, and that's an extreme position in and of itself. But what the Knots people point out is, well, you let arbitrary data onto the network in big, easy to construct transactions and easy to find and easy to reconstruct. Well, then you're going to have the worst types of data being stored on Bitcoin imaginable. And it will actually create liability issues and essentially like a public image kind of issue, and it could spark policy changes. It could spark all sorts of like extra regulations, and all sorts of things could be coming as a result of letting the blockchain just get filled, essentially allowing this, making it so that node operators distribute these images, these transactions all around the network, and then also distribute the blocks that will contain all of that data, right? There's a point where you lose like plausible deniability. Once you could argue that once the blockchain is just saturated enough with the nastiest type of content imaginable, it really will be kind of unconscionable to even run the damn thing. Who's going to want to have that kind of data stored? Why would you expose yourself to that kind of risk when, a judge somewhere could decide that people with these IP addresses that are broadcasting this crap, or storing the blockchain, we're gonna come after you as sexual offenders or something. I mean, you never know what's gonna happen, right? I'm just saying that their argument is there's significant risk to the Bitcoin project. I mean, just like the blockchain itself, there's significant risk to being a node operator if we allow these 100 kilobyte transactions to just spread all around the network all day long, and potentially fill up the blockchain with a bunch of nasty stuff. Then you're just complicit in the transference of this data. That's the Knots argument. Both sides are crazy. There's no reason to increase this limit to 100 kilobytes. There's really no reason to do that. They're just basically Core is just basically making the argument that it's an arbitrary limit, so we can remove it because it's arbitrary. It doesn't matter. You can actually read their response down at the bottom here. The reason for changing the default isn't just that op return is already used and data storage through other means is already possible, which I know quite a bit about. And then they say, including ways that are cheaper than op return. Look, there's not going to be any ways. If you allow 100 kilobyte op return, that'll be the cheapest way to do it. Certainly the easiest way. It'll probably be the cheapest way too. I mean, I don't understand the inscriptions and ordinals and stuff at a technical level. I don't understand what that stuff does, because that's when I stopped paying attention to the protocol. It was back in 2017 when they said they weren't going to increase the block size, and then they introduced SegWit, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not interested in this SegWit stuff. I was like, nah, I just stopped keeping up with the protocol at that point. But then this debate has kind of reintroduced me back into the protocol level, because I'm like, well, look, why can't these two sides meet in the middle somewhere and just be like, okay, how about 1 kilobyte, or how about 5 kilobytes, or just why can't we just meet somewhere on this issue and say, all right, both sides make valid arguments. The Knots people have a valid concern about making it too easy to put really nasty data into the blockchain and pollute the blockchain and completely distort the project from sound money into something else entirely that nobody's asking for. And Core's like, yeah, but it's kind of arbitrary, right? Whatever. People can mine them if they want. It's like, okay, I think people want filters. I think we've seen, we've got almost a 25% of nodes are running Knots at this point. It's mostly just a form of protest. It's sort of just like wearing a mask during COVID, right? Wearing a cloth mask during COVID. It doesn't really stop the spread, but it's a good virtue signal. You let people know where you stand on this one. But, maybe we want to wear the mask. Maybe Bitcoin really is still, we don't want Bitcoin to catch a cold. Like, we don't want Bitcoin to really come down with something nasty. Even if the mask doesn't really work, but it does block things that are technically allowed at the protocol level. It's really things that people don't really want anyway. I'm in favor of putting as much data as anybody fucking wants on the chain. I'm not with the Knots people. I don't stand with the Knots people. I like putting data on chain. But I am concerned that this is why we can't have nice things. I am concerned that with this increase in the op return limit, somebody is going to do something bad, really bad, and really pollute this friggin' chain. It'd be the easiest way to take it down is just pollute the fuck out of it. And I don't think the core people and the people that are on the side of the core people, I don't think they really understand that. I see a lot of philosophizing on Twitter. A lot of people arguing about technical or about it's already allowed, so stupid to stop it. Well, do we want to open the floodgates? Do we want to just say, okay, anybody can just go ahead and stick 100 kilobytes of arbitrary data as much as you want, up to a megabyte contiguously? Go ahead, do it. I mean, it would be unprecedented in a sense. Not that there's already illegal content already in the blockchain. There's already illegal content in there. There's already nasty stuff in there. But, this is really just making it very, very easy. Very easy is the point. Right now, it's still kind of messy to store large chunks of data. You got to write some scripts, and you got to do some complicated stuff, and then figure out how to rearrange it later. It's not super trivial, but the op return makes it trivial. And so, yeah, it's a battle. It's a battle going on, and I understand both sides. I don't like either side. I don't know why we can't just come together. Just come together and keep the op return capped low for transmission relay across nodes. Okay, that's what people want. That's what people want anyway at the end of the day. Give the people what they want. Let Bitcoin be primarily about money. That's fine. Small op returns, 1 kilobyte would be enough to store messages, to store text, to have speech, but not high resolution photos of you know what. Both sides are fucking crazy, man.